What did we do to decrease the spending? Nothing. What did we do to increase our efficiencies? Nothing. I specifically said I wanted to look at those things, so now at the 11th hour, you decide, that you're going to represent the whole city of Vienna, and we're not going to do it anymore. I don't like the game playing.
You were given all three of the budgets to analyze, to ask questions, to talk about
And
any
had
concerns.
every intention of being able to sit here like we've always done in the past and have a conversation and vote on that budget. You know as well as I do that I sat here 2 weeks ago and told you exactly the things that I wanted us to look at in this budget. And that's exactly why, wow, we're going to pick this year to start doing it totally different. That's just a game, and I'm sorry. I don't appreciate it.
Yeah, I didn't know that's how, you gave us the budget, it says in our mailbox, whatever it was, and I got it, but I didn't know it was already approved. I didn't know.
Never been done.
It's never been done like this before. So that's surprising to me. I thought we'd come here tonight, talk about the budget, but what you're saying is the budget's done, no matter what we say, it's already approved. And this is the first time we've ever done it this way, isn't it?
This is the first time that we've ever done it this way. We've always had council vote on the budget in the past.
I don't like it either.
Council has never had to vote on the budget in the past. It has been my advice that they not bring this issue before the Vienna Council because the idea is to separate the two entities, but it has been done that way in the past.
When was this decision made to do it like this? Because I remember Roger Conley saying, because I wanted to scrutinize it too, but nothing was said back then until I show up tonight that that's how this budget's going to be approved. It's already approved. So when was that decision made to go that route?
That's the way the ordinance is written, Mike. If you read it by the way the ordinance is written, okay? It is done by the way the ordinance is written. Now, you've had every opportunity, as well as Mr. Conley, to ask questions or to get information from Mr. Metz or Mrs. Roberts, who prepared the budgets. All right? So whether Mr. Conley wants to blame this on me or not, I really have nothing to do with the way the budget was formed, other than the fact that I sit on the utility board, and because of the way it is, there's no new equipment in this. There's basically a bare bones as it can be, all right? Because you know as well as I do that we are coming out of a rate increase where we operated in a deficit, which we have to correct in order to comply with our bond ordinances, all right? So the fact that you all care to wait till the last second when we get in front of the council and then start to ask these questions, that is not my fault. You have had every chance to come and do this. All right?
Mayor, I was never informed that we weren't, this is already approved. I never, whatever ordinance you're saying, I wasn't aware of that. Nobody's ever talked to me about that, so I'm with Mr. Conley.
Please read the ordinance, Mike. It's right there.
Well, Mayor, you're the mayor. We're a new council. You should tell us, hey, there's an ordinance that says we don't do this anymore. I'm finding out that at 7:30 tonight that there's an ordinance saying we don't have to approve this. It's already approved by the utility board. So that's just, I feel like I was blindsided, and it's not good leadership, man. It's not. We're elected by the citizens of Vienna, and we're representing them. And for us to come in here and get blindsided by this budget's already approved, you have no say in it. I think that's wrong.
There's absolutely nothing right about it, and yes, I do blame you.
You're welcome to, but Mr. Scott, am I interpreting the ordinance as it was written?
But
The
you
ordinance-
chose this year. I'm sorry. You chose this year because I said it was going to be scrutinized, and you don't want to scrutinize it. You want to just raise rates, and you don't want to talk about anything else except raising rates. You don't want to talk about how to reduce spending. You don't want to talk about how to increase efficiencies. All you want to do is stick it to the citizens.
You know, Roger, I'm not going to get into this argument with you this evening because there's no reason to embarrass this council by you and I going back and forth at each other. You know, I find it very interesting that, you know, all of these things, you act like these things are sprung at the last second, but the reality of this is, this budget has been worked on for a number of months, and there are no surprises in here, and you can make all the comments you want about, you know, all the expenditures and all those things right there, but the fact of the matter is, you know, this budget was approved by a separate body of the city of Vienna. And whether you want to look at it and say, okay, I don't agree with this or don't agree with that, the fact of the matter is, you know, this is a fiscally responsible budget that allows us to continue to maintain the water and sewer systems of the city of Vienna. The stormwater budget simply is included in this because it's not a general fund item, it's not an enterprise fund item, it is a stormwater budget. And so really, because the street department takes care of most of the stormwater issues in the city, that's the reason why it was put underneath the utility board. So the stormwater budget really doesn't have a whole lot of consideration in this because it is a totally separate fund from the general fund or the enterprise fund. And so when you say that you have concerns and you know, all these other things, they have all been addressed. And, you know, between our finance director and the department head, and any of the concerns that were brought by the utility board were answered. Joe Thorpe, who serves on the board, had many questions about various items on that. And so, I'm sorry, but I think Joe did a good representation of asking for explanations about where these items came from and what the direction was. So, to say that you were blindsided, I don't agree with that, because the members of the board did their due diligence and they looked this budget over very carefully. I know that Amy went through it many times, and I know that Mr. Metz, who's the department head, has had input from the very beginning with everything that's in this budget. So to say that you were blindsided and what have you, and that's just not a true representation of what the utility board budgets are. There are some things that parallel themselves with the planning commission as far as the utility board goes. The planning commission has the authority to make decisions regarding certain issues just the same as the utility board does. There is a separation there, as Mr. Skogstad explained. You know, it's a separate entity.
I move that we suspend the rules as allowed for in Robert's Rules of Order, and we put this before the council tonight for a vote.
For what to be put for a vote?
The approval of the budget.
The budget's already been approved by the utility board budget.
I move that we suspend the rules as is allowed for in Robert's Rules of Order, and do as we've done in the past, put this before the council tonight for a vote.
Before we go any further, one, and I don't